So today I want to make a video on the future of AI and how it will impact software developers going forward. So just a bit of background, I am a professional software developer that specializes in AI integration, and I've been working in this field for around 3 years now professionally. I went to uni and did a degree in software engineering with an AI minor, and yeah, this is essentially my overview of the way that the field is moving. So AI has been moving fast for the past few years. That's very hard to keep up with. There's new progressions made every day, both in terms of the models and the way the models are used to build tools on top of. So these are the two fields that are continuing to progress, and they're both intertwined with each other in the sense that when one gets better, it typically allows the progression of others to develop. So as these large tech companies develop more and more powerful models, the tools that were built using previous models all essentially instantly get better just by having that new model. And this is the way that these sort of AI tools are being built now, is to sort of leverage the new models as times progress. But we're now getting towards the stage where AI agents are becoming a reality. And previously, there's been murmurs as to whether this would be practical or not, whether it would be possible, whether AI agents could actually replace long-running tasks that software developers do day to day. And essentially, up until now, my opinion on that was no, it's not there yet. It's not possible. But I've been playing around with Claude the past few days, particularly Claude Code, and it sort of opened my eyes as to the way that things are progressing, and just essentially it's now at the stage where it's a tool that progressions in model capabilities will result in essentially more and more autonomous development roles being fulfilled. And I think that's really is a really powerful prospect, and it's really interesting because it's essentially changing the way that software developers work. And right now, I would argue that I'm an early adopter. Claude Code's a big thing, it's got a lot of buzz, but it's not broken into the mainstream software development tool chain yet. Especially, where I work is. It's very traditional software engineering. We work as a team. We get backlog items, we implement that code by hand, and we adopt certain practices, traditional software engineering practices that don't depend on AI tools. And this is good. It is good because it's production systems, and you've got oversight of the code, and you've got responsibility for it, etc. You can't vibe code your way through a production system. But at the same time, that the problem right now in this general sentiment is you can't automate that role 100% with AI because the code that it develops is unreliable, it's unmaintainable. There's a lot of quality issues that are currently present with the dependency on current level AI, so that it doesn't currently replace this traditional software engineering work. However, after playing around with Claude Code, I found it can be very flexible and very general and very capable at handling long running and complex tasks. And it doesn't get it all the way 100% of the time, but the tool is very configurable to the point where you can provide it an environment and a feedback loop to the point where it should continue to run and continue to fulfill your tasks at increasingly abstract levels. And I'll give an example. I had an app that performed a function and then wrote a file, and it had some state management stuff. And I essentially wanted to migrate this app to the cloud. So instead of writing all the helpers and integrating all the libraries and changing the way that the storage and the state management worked myself, I spun up an instance of Claude Code and said, I want you to migrate this local app to the cloud using Azure. I want you to use Azure tables for the state management, and I want you to use our Azure blob storage for the file deployment. And I gave it maybe a list of some other requirements as well that I wanted, and I genuinely wasn't expecting it to be able to handle those that in 0 shot or 1 shot, but it did. Essentially right away, I let it run. I provided it with access to a test suite, that it could run to verify that the changes it made were correct. I set up in the, I believe it's the claude MD file, which allows you to give instructions on how it should operate and how it can build the project and let things run. Well, I set that file all up so that it has context over how it should interface with my project. Gave it an approach to solving problems, which is a TDD approach. So essentially, it writes a test, it writes a failing test for the function that it wants to implement. It implements a piece of logic, and then it runs that test, and it continues that loop until it gets the test passing. And then using this approach, it was able to go from that full abstract but complex feature to a working implementation without me having to essentially lift a finger. And that was my first realization as to, wow, this is going to become mainstream, and as the models become more powerful, it's only going to get better. And yeah, I think software development is going to essentially be turned on its head, and the barrier to entry for writing complex software is going to be much lower, and it's increasingly lower over time as the capability of these tools develop. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out, and I just think generally that's going to turn the way that software engineers operate completely on its head. And I think for the better, because it allows you to get much more output per unit of time with a software engineer. And instead of software engineers working on one feature at a time, an engineer can be dedicated to managing multiple instances of these agents, and it's going to 10x the amount of output that you can get per engineer. So, and that's something I'm very excited about as well myself as an engineer. As an employee, business should be very excited at the prospect of increasing the output for their engineers. But as an individual engineer with entrepreneurial aspirations, it's going to trend in the direction that gives me 10x of my original output, which would be the historical equivalent of a company having to hire 10 engineers. So whereas before that would have been completely impossible because of the financial constraints, now and onwards, and increasingly so in the future, I'll be able to produce the output that a previous 10x person team would have been able to do. And that is amazing for an entrepreneur at this stage that's getting into the AI field and gets in on these tools very early, because before the market saturates and every single person is able to produce that output, if you can get into that very early, and you can learn how to use these tools and capitalize on them and use them in a way that just increases your leverage by so much, then there's a very, very large opportunity for you to take a piece of the pie and ride the wave of the AI, the AI progression. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm spending probably 14 hours a day coding, something like that. So like I will work 8 hours a day at my day job. I will use these AI tools where I can, but I'll spend an extra 3 or 4 hours in the morning getting up early working on my own project so that I can get as much code output as possible and make as much progress in my projects using these tools. And then the same again, I'll maybe another 3 or 4 hours at the end of the day. You gotta go for the home run here. We're at a period of time where things are moving so fast. New technological advancements are coming out essentially monthly, if that, at this point. And the landscape for developers is very, very quickly progressing and changing, and you got to keep up with it, and you got to have an asset that you're building with these tools, because that's essentially what they are. They're tools that allow you to build personal assets to generate income and manifest your vision into reality. And it's increasingly getting faster. The velocity in which you can bring these things into existence is increasing. And yeah, and I think that now's the time to do it, because once these tools are readily available to everyone, the amount of assets that are going to be on the market is going to increase. your competition is going to increase because someone's going to spot a valuable idea and then they're going to be able to instantly replicate it. And also I think the price or the salary that a software engineer can command in a job role as an employee will diminish over time, purely because the function of software engineer is being abstracted away, and a new type of a developer will emerge that is able to harness and leverage these tools. And it's interesting, that might become a new role in itself, or it might, with the similar complexities and design challenges that a software engineering function currently possesses, and that skill set that they currently possess. Or it could be that the barrier to entry for that role diminishes to essentially zero, and non-technical people are on parity with people that do have those technical skills. I think it'll be the former, and I think that people that are good software engineers will be able to embed these agents and tools into their workflow such that they develop software that leverages these agents to perform even more complex tasks than an individual person using an individual agent would be able to do. So essentially orchestrating the swarm type of thing. I think that's going to be a very interesting field that emerges leveraging software engineering skill set of humans. But yeah, it's very interesting. I'm very excited to see the direction that it goes, and I'm looking forward to using it, and I'm spending as much time as possible trying to capitalize on it while the field is still emerging and still fresh. So yeah, I hope everyone has a chance to play around with these, whether you're a software engineer or not, whether you're technical or not. Looking in how to leverage these agentic tools is essentially a path to freedom in my mind. It's a path to creativity, it's a path to asset generation, and ultimately, if you find the right thing, it could be a path to generational wealth. And that's my motivator that drives me forward every day and motivates me to get up and work on these side projects using these tools. And I suggest you all do the same if you don't have one. I'll leave that there. Thanks.